What makes a mother binge drink when she's pregnant, knowing what she's doing to her unborn baby? Valerie Farraher was and still is a devoted mother, but her obsession with alcohol nearly lost her a loving husband, beautiful children, and her own life. But only when she understood the real problem could she start on the road to recovery.
Being addicted to alcohol and being a mother, it's a real split you in two worlds. You're trying to live a normal life in an alcoholic's world. The two can never go together.
Valerie Farraher grew up on the family farm on the lakes of Lough Corrigh in County Mayo, where she lives today. While at secondary school, Valerie fell in love at the age of 15 when she met local farmer Thomas Farraher.
You were both in love with each other. Okay, you were pregnant, but you were engaged anyway, and he could provide for you.
Yeah, and I'd always been taken care of. And I know it sounds very shallow, but my parents always took care of me.
So you married Thomas.
Yeah.
Great day.
Oh, a good shotgun wedding. Yeah, I was 18 and 3 months actually when we got married. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have a plan to do something? Did you have a plan to have a career?
No, I always wanted to get married and have children, lots of children.
That was always the plan?
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing is I'd never held a child until I'd held my own.
At 21, Valerie had 3 children under the age of 3. She was a homemaker, did the books on the farm, and had another baby on the way. She had just started renovating their farmhouse into a perfect family home.
I turned into like a Stepford wife, but I was quite happy there. I would make sure that things were done to order. Uniforms were folded and in rows. Socks were bleached on a Sunday night. A lot of home cooking, cooked from scratch.
By the way, sounds lovely.
Doesn't it?
It does, though.
A little bit too lovely.
Yeah. I know, but
who can really live and stay in that world?
During that time, what changed? What triggered you to have this craving for what led into alcohol, do you think?
Well, I think it could have been when I went into my 4th pregnancy with my 4th child. I developed the gestational diabetes,
okay.
You know, and I was 10.5 stone getting pregnant. I was 18 stone after delivery. I wasn't used to carrying that weight so suddenly. It's different when it's going on over years. Your body adjusts to it. But it was wham, and it really, really got me down.
Tell me what you were like when you were down.
Well, the days just seemed so long. I couldn't go anywhere because I couldn't haul this body around. So I'd stopped socialising. I was sore and irritated and just feeling, I suppose, lonely, you know, for the want of a better word, lonely, and wishing that the kids would hurry up and grow up, you know. Because I was in this place and I couldn't see an end to it. It was just a constant cycle of school and washing and nappies, but that's, you know, I done what every other mother done since the beginning of time.
That sense of loneliness that you mentioned, did you share it with Thomas at any stage?
No, I didn't know it was loneliness. I thought that it was just me being ungrateful.
Sorry, but why would you say ungrateful?
Because I should be very happy with everything I had. You know, I had a nice husband who provides and still does very well for his family. He looks after me, looks after our children. I had a nice home, healthy children. How could you not be happy? That was my attitude.
When were you at your most vulnerable?
I think when Thomas would go out, because that's when I started the whole eating thing, because the weight was on, you know, from the pregnancy and that. But I couldn't lose it because it was too sore first. And then I started to make excuses, getting into this rush. And I didn't know it at the time because I couldn't put a word on it, but I think it was, you know, postnatal depression.
During this difficult period in Valerie's life, a friend called in one day. When Valerie offered her a cup of tea, her friend asked if she had anything stronger.
We did have a bottle of gin in the house, and it was left in the wardrobe, and it had been there for years. Anyway, she said, sure, we'll have one, you know, so I said, grand. I knew I wasn't going to like it, but she wouldn't have one unless I had one as well. It was about 1 o'clock in the day, and Tomas came in the door, and he immediately looked at both of us, and I could see his face dropping. And he said, what's going on here? And I said, oh, I just had a drink. You know, I just couldn't understand what the problem was. I had a burst of energy, and I immediately knew this is the ticket here. Whenever I need a little pick-me-up, it was mother's little help in a glass. What I had started doing was, if I'd had a particularly stressful day, I'd have a little nip of that bottle, but after a couple of months that bottle was gone, and I had to go and buy something else. Because it was the beginning of the Celtic Tiger, there was more money to spend, and I thought, well, wine looks posh in your fridge, doesn't it? And I hated it. Oh, with a vengeance, hated it, you know. But I needed the pick-me-up. I needed the energy. I needed the feel-good factor.
So
I needed it to get the housework done.
But it wasn't the taste, it was the effect.
No, I'd always have to hold my nose to take it.
Like, how much were you drinking when it was bad, and how bad was it?
Well, it escalated quite slowly, but I knew within 6 months of my drinking, I knew I was in trouble.
Did you think you were an alcoholic?
No, I didn't know at the time. I knew there was something wrong, and it had to do with the drink.
And how were you as a mom during that period?
Very skitey, if that's a word at all. I wasn't drinking during the day at that time, just in the evenings. But I was starting to feel ill in the mornings, not being able to function that well. As the years progressed, the drinking got worse and worse and worse. I was a binge drinker, so I wouldn't drink every day, but when I did drink, I would drink all day, all night, all day. I would drink for 2 of them days, then I'd be in bed for another couple of days because I'd be so sick. I would drink until I couldn't drink anymore.
When you were sober and hungover, what were you like together, you and Tomas? What was he like with you?
There was a lot of all picture and no sound. You know, I would be I would kind of be a little bit hunched and stay quiet and do what needed to be done. At this stage, Tomas had to take everything out of the joint account and put it into an account with his own name on it, and he had a checkbook. And sometimes when he was asleep, I would be tearing out checks and writing checks. I would take the pass card because I knew the number and take it out. And I was sober when I'd done that because I needed a drink.
Back then, did you think he was stupid?
I never thought he was stupid. I just thought, I don't care how I have to do it or what I have to do, but I needed to get drink. That's as simple as that.
But you knew it was wrong?
Oh, God, yeah. You know, I still had, you know, the guilt and the shame and the fear. The fear was a huge, huge thing. I was doing very out of character things. Tomas was just up to here. He had a full-time job. We have a farm that he needs to run, and everybody knows farmer's life is a busy life. And he had 4 children.
So how were you feeding the kids or bringing them to school and stuff?
I'm not. And when I am bringing them to school, sometimes I'm bringing them drunk. Yeah.
You drove drunk, the kids in the car?
Yeah, often. Yeah.
The idea of driving the car drunk with
the most
children.
Precious jewels of your life. Yeah. Yeah. It's horrifying. It's because you're trying to live a normal life in an alcoholic's world. The two can never go together.
And the kids must have been crying. The older ones must have been saying, please, Mom, or...
Yeah, well, they all have their own different... because they all have different personalities, so they all filtered, you know, what was going on in a different way. But the older children remember me before I became sick, you know, before I started drinking like that. Siobhan, obviously, she was 3 when I started the drinking. That was the only mother she ever knew. The children have told me, you know, since, that during school they were always fine, you know, because they were occupied and stuff was going on and that. But when they got on the bus, the fear would start. What's going on at home? Can you imagine what that must be like?
Awful.
Every day of your life, never knowing what you're coming home to.
There wasn't much communication. I didn't pick up on the whole fact that this wasn't normal until I started hanging around with my friends at their houses, and I'd see their mothers and I'd be kind of like, why doesn't my mum do that? It was heartbreaking seeing my mother cry, because she's obviously someone I'm meant to idolise, but you know, seeing her cry like that, obviously I was kind of, you know, seeing her so vulnerable, it was heartbreaking.
For 10 years, Valerie sought help repeatedly for her alcohol addiction problem. She was hospitalised for detox, attended AA and several addiction treatment centres.
And I started getting into AA and started to really enjoy it. And things were fairly picking up. And what would happen was I would get a period of sobriety, you know, where I'd be quite well, doing what it says to do in AA, you know, looking toward prayer, meditation, going to Mass, even popping into the church during the day, having a sit down, trying to involve myself again in the community. Just when everything would be perfect and people would start to breathe again, wham, Tomas would arrive home and I'd be drunk. And I'll never forget the look on his face. It'll haunt me for the rest of my days, you know, what I had done. Because it was like I was purposely doing it. And the funny thing was, like, I wasn't doing it on purpose, but I don't know why I kept getting sucked back into that. I was just so unhappy. You know, it's like whenever I go into rehab, another admission, or whenever I'd be admitted into hospital for another detox, he would always be asked, and what's she like when she's not drinking? And he would always say, if you met this woman when she's not drinking, you wouldn't recognise her. She's a lovely mother, she's a lovely wife, she's really funny, but the minute you put drink into her, it's a Jekyll and Hyde. I would just zone in on Tomas and make his life as difficult as I possibly could, because he was interfering with my drinking.
Did you lose it with the kids?
I never hit them or anything, but I mean, I was doing enough to them anyway.
As well as the impact on her children, Valerie's drinking was inflicting enormous strain on her husband Tomas.
He used to feel sick coming home from work, and he said he only came home for the kids. He wasn't coming home to me, because I was just... I wasn't me.
Did he ever ask you to leave?
Oh sure, I was told to go all the time. And then when I'd go, they'd come and find me and bring me back.
If he went after you, he didn't want to
well,
lose you?
You know, I think when I was told to leave, it was out of anger.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe it would be enough of a smart to make me smarten up a bit. Blonde, I wanted to stop drinking so much. I had this brainwave. I was going to get pregnant. I didn't drink before. This will stop me. I'll get 9 months. I'll get a good run. So I became pregnant again. It didn't stop me drinking. I think I drank about 4 times through the pregnancy, but when I drank heavy.
When you were drinking, when you were pregnant, were you talking to that baby? Were you talking to God?
I think the feeling I had of myself was disgust. That would be it. I think if I was on the outside looking in at another woman who was drinking that heavily whilst pregnant, particularly pregnant with her 5th child, you know, you should know better by then.
What did Tomas
But addiction is more powerful than me.
But what was Tomas saying to you when you were doing this to his baby?
Oh, Lord. Well, he said, if anything happens to that child, I'll never forgive you. And I still drank again. I was completely and utterly addicted. When you're drinking and there's a life trying to grow and develop, and it's his only chance of getting a good start, and you're doing that, the whole pregnancy was a disaster for me. It was a constant nightmare. When I was being called in for my scans, I wouldn't sleep for several days beforehand for fear that they'd pick something up. The night before I went in and had him, I had been drinking. I went through labour, hungover.
But there had to be some effect.
Yeah, but he's, touch wood, he's healthy, normal, thriving in school, very happy, very content child. I was to continue drinking until he was 3. And
How do you mind a newborn when you're drinking?
family, they all step in. My sister and I used to pop down to visit, and if she'd see that I'd been drinking, she'd say, I'll bring TJ up, sure, he'll play up next door for a while. And sure, I was only glad to see the back of it so I could get my groove on, you know, and get some drinking done. Her job, I suppose, was to just mind that child and not to try and mind me, you know. And only for her, I think the children could have been took, you know, somebody.
Do you think that?
Well, I know that social services, the last thing they want to do is take children from the family, especially when there's a husband or a spouse or something like that that's fairly of sound mind, you know, because I would have not been of sound mind.
How did you get to the place where you just wanted to end it?
I wanted out because I knew I wasn't ever going to get better. I'd been at it for 10 years. It was time to give up the ghost. I had got enough alcohol that I thought this would finish me now. And my thoughts at the time made perfect sense, that the right thing to do was, I can't keep doing this to them. I can't. To have your children afraid of you is an awful thing for a mother to do. How can you go from a Stepford wife to a fall-down drunk who neglects her children? And that's what it was. It was neglect.
So what, you planned to drink yourself to death?
I hadn't the courage to kill myself sober. And I wasn't able to get drunk. You know, well, I was, obviously, in a physical sense, but the mental state was still there. I couldn't numb it. I couldn't cling film it.
So that didn't work?
No, that didn't work. So I had to use extreme measures, and that was to hang myself. That's what I done in the bedroom. I remember thinking, they're going to be upset, but they're kids, they're resilient, they'll bounce back. People die. These were the thoughts that were going through my head. What I'm giving them is a chance of a life, a chance to be able to grow and develop with maybe a normal person. I was hoping that maybe Thomas might be able to find a normal wife, and that was going to be kind to him and kind to his needs. Just before everything went completely black, you know, I was quite content. I was relaxed. I was at peace. And then I just got a big vision of my mother's face. And I remember all of my life started to, and all the times that she would say, I'm terrified in case something had happened, yeah. She's already buried a child from cot death. And that was very difficult for my parents. And I got a bit of a, oh, gee, I forgot about her, you know, but it was too late. So even though I was at peace with myself, the last few seconds of my life were going to be regretful, you know, because of what I was going to do to my parents.
Valerie survived her suicide attempt when the hook from which she tried to hang herself broke.
I felt this nudging and, Ma'am, Ma'am. And I looked up and there's TJ, he's 2.5 or 3, however he is, holding a banana saying, Dad said you need to eat this. Because as bad as I was, Tomas would always cook a dinner and send it back to me. And I remember sitting up going, well, this has happened for a reason. I'm not supposed to die. I can't even flip and hang myself. So I picked up the phone and I dialed Westock and I just said, I've just tried to hang myself. My second eldest daughter, she was driving at the time, she brought me to hospital. She kicked up a fuss and she said, this woman is sick and I'm not leaving here until somebody from the psychiatric department comes down. And they did. My husband was asked, what's she like when she's not drinking? Lovely, lovely woman, couldn't meet nicer. And the psychiatrist said, what's she like when she's not drinking? And you know, God love him, he didn't want to say things like, when, you know, she's eaten an awful lot and she spends quite a bit of time in bed and she's quite weepy, she doesn't do things that she likes anymore. Tick box, depression.
But he was probably trying to protect you.
Well, he didn't want to disrespect me or make... And he's rocking up at the hospital with me, falling all over the place, and still didn't want to disrespect me.
Sure, if we were all experts, we'd be...
I was suffering from depression in between the binges as well, but I couldn't recognise it. I didn't have a name for it. I was getting sober, but then I was going back into drinking again. It's called dual diagnosis. It's when you have two conditions. I had addiction. I also had a mental health difficulty. What happened then was I started going to outpatients, mental health. So you've got your addiction counsellor, your psychiatric nurses, and that's where you also see your psychiatrist.
Okay.
It's all under the one roof.
I was just going to say all in the one area.
And they're all communicating. It's all integrated, all in the... Because very often it's not.
What have you lost?
From the drinking.
Yeah.
The hurt and the pain that have caused my family for all them years. It had to have an effect on them. It's changed who they are, but my older children, God bless them, they still try and comfort me, tell me that what I have taught them is how to be strong and how to fight back and how to keep trying.
Going through what you did and planning the suicide, for you now looking back at that, what do you feel?
Looking back now, I think that could have been a huge turning point. Somehow I knew that when you go to that much trouble to end your life, it was, do you know what, this is not supposed to happen. And I'm glad it didn't now, because my children wouldn't have learned the lessons that they do now. They wouldn't have learned that no matter what happens to you or what life throws at you, that it can, with the proper care, you know, and maybe with the right person or with the right support.
But Valerie, of all the things you could do to your children, there's nothing worse than taking your own life.
Yeah, yeah. Because I ask them about that now, you know, and sometimes I say, you know, what did you think about that? And they always say a half a mother was better than no mother at all. So you need to be up there for 10 in the morning, is it?
Well, I was thinking we leave the house for 9.
Yeah.
Valerie has been sober for 4 years. She has established and funded a home detox service just for mothers with her colleague Mary Coyne, a mental health facilitator. They now treat men as well as women and have recently relaunched their service as New Choices.
Women, I think in particular, need more options. And you cannot look at an addiction without looking at mental health.
With my mum now, she's a lot stricter, which is good. I mean, it's nice to have structure in the house. It's nice to see her walking around the house, you know, doing a bit of tidying up. She's more of a best friend than a demanding mother. You know, she's like, make your own decisions, and she's allowing me to blossom. I have nothing against drink. I mean, I hate it for what it done to my mother, but I'm a lot more conscious of it than I would give other 17, 18-year-olds my age, because obviously I grew up in a house where there was a lot of drinking.
Do you want to give me the book, Siobhan?
Yeah.
Valerie's book, Come Back to Me When You're Sober, was co-written with her 5 children.
Come Back to Me When You're Sober is the story from start to finish regarding the drinking and the treatment services that I went through. And what the children have done then is they have wrote a chapter each on how it was for them and what they got from services also. Something that was always said to me in the house whenever I was drinking and I was going to go and try and apologise or give an excuse for my behaviour, they would always say, look, just come back to me when you're sober. Come back tomorrow. Come back later when you've no drink on you.